You're not indecisive, you're not broken, you're just thinking about the wrong questions. And if that hit you in the chest, I already know what's happening in your head right now. You replay conversations from 3 days ago. You imagine 10 different versions of how something could go wrong before it even starts. You spend more time planning your life than actually living it. And the worst part, you know you're doing it. You watch yourself spiral in real time, like you're trapped behind glass, screaming at your own brain to just stop. But here's what nobody tells you. This isn't weakness, it's misdirected intelligence. And if you've ever felt paralyzed by your own thoughts, exhausted by decisions that shouldn't be this hard, or guilty for wasting another day stuck in your head, this video might change how you see yourself. I'm not a therapist. I'm not here to sell you a course or tell you to just think positive. But I've spent years studying cognitive psychology, decision science, and the neuroscience of rumination, and I've lived this. I've lost jobs, relationships, and entire years to overthinking. And what I've learned is this: smart people don't overthink because they're anxious. They overthink because they're pattern seekers, trapped in a world that punishes certainty. So let me show you what's really happening in your brain and how to rewire it, why your brain won't shut up. Here's the thing. Your brain wasn't designed for the modern world. Evolutionarily, overthinking was a survival tool. If you heard a rustle in the bushes, your ancestors who thought, is that a predator? Should I run? What if I'm wrong? They survived. The ones who didn't think, they didn't pass on their genes. Your overthinking is an outdated alarm system that never learned to turn off. But here's where it gets worse. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis. The more intelligent you are, the more variables you can see. The more variables you see, the more potential outcomes you imagine. And the more outcomes you imagine, the harder it becomes to choose any of them. It's like standing at a restaurant with a 300-page menu. Technically, you have unlimited options. Practically, you're starving while everyone else has already ordered. And here's the kicker. Overthinking doesn't give you better answers. It just gives you more anxiety. A study from the University of Virginia found that when people were given 15 minutes to sit alone with their thoughts, 67% of men and 25% of women chose to electrically shock themselves rather than just think. Your brain doesn't want clarity, it wants control. And when you can't control the outcome, it keeps running simulations, hoping that eventually you'll find the perfect answer that guarantees zero risk, zero regret, and zero failure. Spoiler, that answer doesn't exist. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah is brilliant. Double major, published researcher, the kind of person who could argue both sides of any issue and win. But she spent 6 months deciding whether to take a job offer. Not because it was a bad job, not because she had better options. She just kept thinking, what if I regret it? What if there's something better 6 months from now? What if I'm closing a door I didn't even know was open? And you know what happened? The offer expired. The company moved on. And Sarah stayed exactly where she was, except now she had a new thing to overthink. What if I just made the biggest mistake of my life by doing nothing? Here's the truth she learned the hard way. Indecision is still a decision, and it almost always costs more than the wrong choice ever would. So let's reframe this. You don't have a thinking problem. You have a thinking about thinking problem. Most people assume overthinking means they need more information, more research, more time, more reassurance. But that's not how your brain works. Your brain doesn't overthink because it lacks data. It overthinks because it fears finality. Every decision you make closes a door. And closing doors feels like loss, even when what's behind the door is better than where you are now. So instead of trying to think less, here's what actually works. Stop trying to make the perfect decision. Start making the reversible one. Most of the decisions you're agonizing over, they're not permanent. You can course correct, you can pivot, you can change your mind, but you can't course correct from inaction. Here's a system I call the 4-8-hour rule. It's simple. If a decision won't significantly impact your life in 48 hours, give yourself 48 seconds to make it. Picking a restaurant, 48 seconds. Choosing which email to send first, 48 seconds. Deciding whether to say yes to a coffee meeting, 48 seconds. Now, For big decisions, job offers, relationships, relocations, flip it. Give yourself 48 hours of focused thought. Then decide. Not 48 days, not 48 weeks, 48 hours. Here's why this works. Your brain will generate 90% of the useful insights in the first 48 hours. After that, you're not thinking, you're ruminating. You're rehearsing the same fears in slightly different outfits. And here's the secret. The quality of your decision doesn't improve after 48 hours, but your anxiety does. So set a timer. Give yourself permission to think deeply for 2 days. Then commit, not because the answer is perfect, but because imperfect action beats perfect paralysis every single. Now, I know what you're thinking, but what if I make the wrong choice? You will, sometimes. And you know what? You'll survive it. You'll learn. You'll adjust. The people you admire most, they didn't get there by avoiding mistakes. They got there by making decisions fast enough that they had time to recover and try again. But I don't want to be impulsive. This isn't impulsivity. Impulsivity is acting without thought. This is acting after enough thought and recognizing when more thought becomes self-sabotage. What if I regret it? Here's the truth. You'll regret some decisions. But research shows you'll regret the things you didn't do far more than the things you tried and failed at. The job you didn't apply for, the person you didn't talk to, the trip you didn't take. Inaction doesn't protect you from regret, it guarantees it. So here's what I want you to do. Think about one decision you've been putting off. Not because it's hard, but because you're waiting for certainty that will never come. And I want you to ask yourself, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Not because failure isn't real, but because that question cuts through the noise and shows you what you actually want before fear drowns it out. And if this hit home for you, drop a comment and tell me, what's the one decision you've been overthinking? You don't have to share details, just name it. Sometimes seeing it in writing is the first step to finally moving forward. Look, your brain is trying to protect you, and I respect that. But protection without progress isn't safety, it's stagnation. You're smarter than you think, braver than you feel, and more capable than your overthinking will ever let you believe. So take the next step, not the perfect one, just the next one. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, trust yourself a little more than you interrogate yourself. You've got this.